Happy Sunday, everyone, and welcome back to the Krown's magical crypto dungeon.
Dungeon? What the fuck is that? Hey, well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. Wishing you a very happy midsummer, or day after midsummer. My God, spent the day out here in the forests of Finland, and it is so damn gorgeous. So I hope that you are having a great weekend as well. And we got plenty to talk about with Bitcoin, as Bitcoin obviously hitting up not just a 10K day, but an 11K day, plus hitting our first target towards 11,300 and backing off back down to the second target of 10,300. And now we're kind of right back in the middle. So we got plenty to talk about today. I'll do a little bit of long-term analysis, although because there's so much new price action going on here, I think that this is going to be mostly focused on the more recent events. So with that said, I do want to wish you the best, the haps of the happies, and let's see you in the live scene right here, right now. Initiate that good old teleportation, and there she is, Bitcoin on the 12-hour. Actually, let's switch this to a daily really quick, and let's go over here to our good old Bitstamp. You can see that Bitcoin still holding it up and closing a relatively strong daily. Yeah, we do have a little bit of a wick to the upside, but overall closing and still pushing the top Krown band on the daily right here. So I do think that we have a little bit more to go. However, this is where the market starts to get a little bit more different, and because we are seeing, we're seeing a little bit of a different signature with regards on the alts versus Bitcoin to Bitcoin versus US dollar. I do think that we're entering into a little bit of a new phase, and I think that some alts are perhaps bottoming right now. So with that said, we'll get in that idea a little bit later. But for right now, I did want to show that Bitcoin's still trending quite strongly outside the top Krown bands. We still see all daily oscillators, daily Stokes still looking like they want to cross the downside. But keep in mind that they've been quite resilient in this region. And it's not really until we get down below and tick out of this critical zone right here where I'd expect a waterfall like this or like this. So right now, Bitcoin probably going to go into a little bit of a consolidation. We definitely see that on lower time frames as we spoke about yesterday, and creating another trading range probably for the week to come. Looking at daily RSI, we are going to be building some divergence here as we've been speaking about for quite some time. But for now, still actually working its way forwards. In fact, we do have where this one's way down around there. Remember, we did have this falling channel right over here coming into to the beginning of last week. That's why I was getting bullish for that next breakout towards 10K plus, and we've actually pretty much hit the measure move on this. Not that you can really do a full-on measured move. I mean, measure moves on the RSI don't really work all that well in my experience, but we have pretty much all but hit there, and we do see that this area right here around the 80 marker is an area of resistance. And in fact, when we are in a more bullish market, I will move up the more critical zone to the 80ish area. So in fact, I'll probably change that a little bit later tonight, but for right now, it does line up with the edge of the critical zone and also the measure move. So again, a little bit of consolidation here, probably does come back down and test the exponential at some point in time. And then we'll kind of talk about the next the next expected move. But for right now, Bitcoin looking pretty damn strong, and we do still see that the daily historical volatility percentile is actually ticking up right now. So that does tell me that Bitcoin overall is still perhaps has some more to go on the higher time frames. So again, need to make a relationship between the lower time frames and the higher time frames, and that's what we're going to do right now as we're going over here to our BitMexican chart and go down to a 4-hour. And you do see on the 4-hour that we are in a consolidation area-ish phase. We do see actually historical volatility percentile on the 4-hour still going down right now. In fact, we have been going down all the way since this massive pump was put in on the middle of May, which was on that first major run back on over here towards 8,200. So we're actually, we're actually in a very interesting part of this market phase, just because this is going to have major implications for that next major move, I'd imagine. And until we actually get that historical volatility percentile getting back above, especially this moving average, and if we make a trend line right here as well, that's going to be that's going to likely line up with the next major pivot point in the market. But of course, as you can see, this is really not a huge consideration right now. It's going to take some time for that to happen, but something to watch in the coming weeks, I suppose. We do see 4-hour essentially being just consolidation right around the red 10 moving average, so holding up above all major moving averages. And we do see the top of this Krown band coming in right around about 11,200, 11,300, which is essentially our top of yesterday. So to me, this still looks constructive within this region. We do see 4-hour Stokes coming down, but price action's been pretty much flat. So it's just allowing our momentum oscillators, our mom oscillators, the chicken tendy oscillators to reset. And well, that is what a bullish consolidation, a reaccumulation phase likely is on the lower time frame. So higher time frame still suggesting that a little bit more perhaps lower time frames consolidating. So kind of similar to yesterday. I look for this spread a little bit. Doggies are going crazy right now. Sorry about that, but they're out of the door right now. Can you close the door? Thank you, Ketos. There we go. Anyways, you do see that we're essentially flagging out right now, and we are creating a trading range on the lower time frames right here. So let me just take off the trolling demands for now, and let's get a little bit more granular with this on perhaps the 2 hour. And I'm not going to do anything crazy here. I mean, this is just very, very basic. We have a nice support trend line coming in right around about 10,550, and we have a nice resistance trend line coming in right around our highs of yesterday. So this is our new trading range. I do think that we have another leg up towards to test around the 11,100, 11,200 region. As we do see our lower time frame oscillators start to switch around, but the second that I see the 2 hour Stokes cross back up to the upside, I do think that we get this next move back up to fill around this area, and this is likely to create another like I said, another bullish reaccumulation phase in the form of a flag, in the form of a triangle of some sorts, likely to come in like that. When does it get resolved? Nobody knows, but for now, because we can see the initial etchings of a trading range, we can just do something very, 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 very crude and plot out a potential measure move. My God damn it, these fucking price keep on they keep on escaping me, so I'll just have to reset it like this, and let's just see where that'd be pointing towards, and that'd be pointing towards actually high 11,000s. So remember that the mid to high 11,000s are an area of resistance from the higher time frame perspective. So lower time frames are going to take a little bit of a hold here. But with that said, we do see 2 hour RSI, once again, just looking constructive within this region, just oscillating between the bullish control zone and the neutral zone, which does tell me that this is likely to be a bullish, a bullish consolidation here. We're just likely to get another try to the upside. Of course, it's not until we actually break out above 11,150 and close a 2 hour dildo above there where I'd start to look for more continuation to the upside. So again, it's and of course it's just, I suppose it's also worth mentioning that, hey, if we do close a 2 hour dildo below our our kind of trading range support right over here at about 10,550, which is also lined up with the 2 hour yellow 21 exponential moving average, then I'd be looking for a move back down to the low 10,000s region, about 10,000 even actually. But I'm not really leaning towards that happening. I do think that we have another test of this resistance trend line here first before anything else. So with that said, I'm curious how the hourly looks. I'm going to guess that hourly Stokes are headed up right now. And again, these have been fucking good at getting price action. They called the top. They literally called the top to the T right over here. Right over here on that move from about 11,200 down to 10,300. So almost $1,000 move in the span of 1 fucking hour, and it called the bottom right here of this move so far as well. So again, these sometimes it can literally be that simple. Trust your edge when your edge gives you a signal, because that's a statistical advantage of using technical analysis. It's not going to be perfect. It's not always going to work out for you, but with more repetitions, it's more statistically likely. That's how edge essentially works. And we do see that hourly RSI actually, I feel more comfortable analyzing this and saying that this is certainly consolidation, and a bullish consolidation at that. So Bitcoin, back above all these major moving averages. We're about to see the red 10 simple, cross and confirm above the yellow 21. So I do think that we have another run back towards 11,150-ish region, and then we'll reassess from there. But until we actually start getting some 2 hour dildo close above this region right over here, I would not be looking for overall continuation, and I think that it would be a little bit premature to look for continuation overall until we get the new weekly. So now let's start talking about the higher time frames, right? Because the higher time frames are, and we all see historical volatility percentile on the hourly still consolidating. And this is, probably going to take its time to come down a little bit. Now the moving average is back above it, so we are going to enter that phase. So I'm not necessarily looking for this to break out, today. If I had to, pester a gander, whatever the fuck to say. I'm just making up words now. Sorry about that. Anyways, going over here to the weekly, I do think that we have something extremely important to be aware of. Now, we knew this on Friday with the advent of CMEs closing for the weekend, but now we're going to have spot charts also closing for the weekend at 8 p.m. Later tonight if you are on the same Eastern Hemisphere as myself, and it's Sunday. and if you're confused about what I'm saying, I'm talking about the weekly close at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, which if we close above this top trolling band, which by the way is coming in at 10,200, so I'd say it's quite likely at this point in time, then I would be looking for another try higher. I do think that we get more continuation coming into next week. So There's two ways of looking at this. Do we close above or below the top trend band? If we close below 10,200, or probably more accurately speaking be about 10,100, then yes, I do think that we'd probably come all the way back down to low 9,000s. But I think it goes without saying. I don't think I'm saying anything too crazy here. I think it's quite likely that we close above and we get some more continuation up to the next level, which is going to be right around our February 2018 highs. Right around here, 11,500. So I do think that we still get probably a test into that region that is confluent with the measure move on the lower time frames that we looked at, somewhere between there and about 12,000. For full disclosure, I am still long, but I'm long on my spot positions, but and futures positions, but I am short on my opposite positions, so I am covered essentially. And I really like what Ivan said. By the way, shout out to Ivan, man, that guy is amazing. Over here we have proof of trade, pot. The good old proof of trade. So I think that's very important. It's important to verify yourself, especially in this market where there's no real verification agency. Like when I was a professional trader on the floor of New York Stock Exchange ARCA, I had to take tests like a Series 56, which was really fucking hard and it had pretty much nothing to do with actual trading, just like rules. And then you have to go through the FINRAs and the SEC and all that good stuff. But in cryptocurrency land, there's nothing like that. So it's not like you pass some sort of a test and then it's like you're verified, you're good to go. No, in traditional markets you can like go up online and you can go look me up at on broker check or whatever it is, and they'll tell you. But in cryptocurrency land, anyone can make a fucking YouTube, anyone can make a Twitter, anyone can make whatever it is and start saying whatever. But I think the best way to verify yourself is by showing your trades, for better or worse, which I am of course not a perfect trader. But my options positions right over here actually doing okay. I sold the 10,500 strike calls yesterday for about $800. $750 to $800, I forget exactly how much, on my streamer account. On my main account, about $800 to cover, because like I said, I'm out here in the middle of the Finland forest. I'm not really watching my computer all that much. I want to be respectful to Elsa's family and spend some time with them, even though I do think that Bitcoin probably has another try here. But with selling these for about $800, I consider that essentially the same as selling spot for about 11,300. Then I sold some out of the money calls right over here, which immediately which after the dump yesterday night from about 11,200 to 10,300 just immediately collapsed. I was trying to get about 40 contracts of this in my streamer account, and I got about 8.5, and then I sold some way out of the money. It's over here just because this is they're giving you fucking $350 premium for 15,000 strike calls. That's easy. That's the easiest thing to cover in the world. Anyways, for full disclosure, on my spot positions, still holding them strong, still holding them long. Don't really have any reason to change them. The position from about 39.30, 51.50, and 92, if you want to call it that. My main account is about the same. I'm a little bit more exposed to the long side of my main account, but my streamer account, I wanted to make sure that I pulled all this in. So with that said, let's go back into the charts and kind of, again, the reason why I set up a range like this is because our prior highs of February 2018 is right around that 11,500 mark. So, when I sold those in the money calls, I look at that as basically selling at that price to begin with. And if I want to expose myself to the long side once again, if we close back above this area, then I just take those calls off, and actually they're probably going to be in profit at that time as well. Anyways, with all that said, we should look at our weekly oscillators. We do see weekly Stokes actually having a fresh cross back up to the upside. Now, keep in mind, this is in the very critical zone, so, it's better to be cautious here more than anything. And I do think that we are really approaching the end of this first phase of this parabolic run for Bitcoin relatively soon. I don't think that it has too much more to go here before we get a massive consolidation on a higher time frame schedule. But for now, we still do see weekly Stokes having a fresh cross up to the upside. And remember, when we're talking about a weekly, we're talking about months of price action. So this is far away. Weekly RSI is actually still okay. We could be creating some divergence, but first things first, we need to confirm a local top, of which we have none. And I've gone on the spiel a million goddamn times. The goddamn divergence fuckboys always calling bearish divergence here and there, just like all the divergence fuckboys over here were calling bullish divergence. Again, it's good to not get caught up in the gang mentality of always being bullish or always being bearish. The same people who were all calling the bottom every $100 down are now the equal but opposite perma morons, perma wrecked people who are calling tops each and every $100 up. Remember, the trend is your friend until the end. The trend, strong trends are likely to continue, especially when we're looking at these higher time frames. I mean, we're looking at years of price action actually. Anyways, so that's kind of like the more long-term view. And of course, while we are here on the weekly, I think it is worth mentioning that we have a full-on bullish posturing of all major moving averages, essentially across all of the higher time frames. We have all lower periods trading above higher periods. I mean, basically, going from the 2-day, all of them splayed out in that nice rainbow attempt. Sorry, not only that, but we're actually getting major divergence now between even the purple 200 and the blue 3/7 exponential moving average, which are very high. Those are very high periods, which are imply that that's a lot more of a long-term thing. It's going to take a lot of momentum to really get those guys away from each other, and that's actually what's happening right now. Going over here to the 2-day, same thing. We see all lower periods trade above higher periods, and they're actually they're getting divergence away from each other as well, trying to strengthen it to the upside. Same thing with 3-day, and of course weekly, as we just looked at, and even the monthly. But we don't really have too much. We don't really have enough history to populate all the major moving averages for that. But it is worth mentioning. So the biggest things for tonight, and what's really going to dictate this next weeks of price action, is do we close above or below this top 200 band at about 10,200. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that we very, very likely close above it. The reason why I say that it's very likely that we close above it is because CME's already closed for the week, and they closed above it. They closed at $10,015, and the top 200 band for the weekly here was 9,600. So it's unless we have a major, unless we have about $1,000 move down to the downside here before daily close. Probably probably gonna get another major gap up. I mean, fucking hell, man, you have to have a lot of sympathy for the people trading on CMEs who who have to deal with this each and every weekend. 1, 2, 3, 4, and working on a 5th massive gap up. I mean, this is insanity. Now, of course, those traders can hedge on other exchanges, and I'm sure that if they are trading on CMEs, they have the margin and equity to go, and also smarts to go to hedge on another exchange as well. But my God, for the people who might be blindly betting, I mean, that's one great way to get wrecked just before you even wake up for fucking Monday. It's a major loss if you try to short for the weekend. With regards to CMEs, this would suggest that yes, we probably do see that same action on spot charts. That would also imply that CMEs, as you can see right over here, are the last of Mohicans for this prior high was right around about $11,400, $11,500. So I do think that is still an area of hot contention. Not only that, but we do see if we put on a a Fibonacci retracement from the ultimate high to the ultimate low of Bitcoin, the 0.5 retracement right over here is coming in literally perfectly to the dot, right around about 11,400, which is that, the double top in February of last year. So this is a major pivot in the market, in my opinion. Not only that, we also see volume profile agreeing with this. This is kind of like the last of the higher value nodes, if you can even call it that. I mean, it's pretty fucking low to begin with compared to what we've been dealing with from 3,000, 6,000, 8,000, 9,000, and now, basically the 11,000. So that would suggest, though, that we do see some counter trend momentum, in that region. So I would be cautious overall until we start closing dailies above about 11,500. I would be very cautious within this region, just because, well, like I said, this is essentially unprecedented territory, and that will be the next major pivot on the market, most likely. If Bitcoin can get above the 0.5 retracement, which I don't think it will in the first pass, I think that it probably sells off in the first pass. In fact, to be fair, you might actually even consider yesterday the first pass. I mean, this is pretty fucking close. We got up to 11,300, 11,200, and what was it? Yeah, a little bit above 11,200 on all major exchanges. So you could say that we pretty much already tested it. It doesn't need to be perfect, especially when we're dealing with big numbers. There's going to be a room for error, and I think my range for yesterday was about 11,300 to 11,500. So I do consider that essentially hit, and that's why I was selling those options. I do think that it's going to take a little bit of time to actually break this area, but that's an opinion. My opinion is fucking worthless. I don't trade my opinion. I trade technical analysis. And if we do get above this area, if Bitcoin can actually maintain dailies above the 0.5 retracement, there is very little doing above that area. This is extremely low market acceptance. And if you think that we flew through the 9,000s and 10,000s, from 11,500 all the way to basically prior highs is fumes. It's fucking fumes. So Bitcoin will rip both ways. You're going to see major ups, major downs, major swings. It's going to be the violent shit that we've seen, from the past, from beginning of 2018 all over again. And I'd imagine, we'd still be aware of these major pivots on the market, the 618, the 786 right over here, which are lining up with critical areas as well. In fact, I'm going to put them in right now just because, well, it should line up with this area right over here, and also this swing high right over here. Hey, not bad. Sometimes that technical analysis bullshit actually works. Goddamn crystal balls. So my point is that, if Bitcoin can get above this area, that's your next major pivot on the market. And I would be looking for Bitcoin to just likely really accelerate its way through to these next levels. And that's really all there is to do. It's nothing too complicated here. Bitcoin is looking quite powerful, but that is the next, this is the next gatekeeper on the market, if you will. But remember, with pairing it with the lower time frames, and especially if we get that next weekly deal to close above the top Challenger band, which looking quite likely right now, anywhere above 10,200, I do think that we at least test 11,500 ish, give or take a few bucks, and well, anytime you test something, you have a chance to actually break it. So with that said, I would be cautious here. There are certainly signals that this run is getting a little bit more exhausted, but for now, still the trend remains, and the trend is your friend until the end of the trend, and this trend very, very strong. So I want to get on over and check out. We looked at GBTC yesterday. We looked at CME today. Those are going to be relatively unchanged. They're not trading over the weekend, so we don't really need to look at them again. I do think it is worth mentioning that monthly, going back to the monthly right over here and showing that the higher time frames are, they are quite conclusive right now. That monthly is still, looking like, it's continuation all the way through. And more importantly, with the monthly, we are coming into the end of the month right now. So if this monthly closes with any sort of a body above, even above 9,000, I would look for next month to give another try higher, actually. And you can actually see from the monthly perspective that 14,000 is going to be a major pivot as well. So that is, that is going to be a consideration. But my point is that we now have both a positive slope on the yellow 21 exponential moving average and also the red 10 simple, and those are going to likely get closer to each other as the red 10 simple wants to cross back up to the to the upside, and that from a longer term perspective, we're looking at a monthly here, so we're talking about years of price action. Is gonna really set the overall tone for this asset. We do see monthly Stokes extremely painfully erect right here. This did accurately call the bottom or the bullish momentum in about around middle of 2015 right over here. Same thing with the RSI. Even more importantly with the RSI, this one's aggressively accelerating right now. Quite impressive. And you do see, we did get back above the exponential, which again did call the bullish momentum being gained in 2015 as well in October right here, actually perfectly. So I really do like this setup from not just a moving average perspective, but also an oscillator perspective. And yes, I do think that Bitcoin does come back down at some point in time and set in a higher low. It's probably going to be confluent with when we come back down and test this exponential right here. But as you can see from the monthly perspective, first things first, Bitcoin needs to put in a local high, confirm that local high by getting follow through to the downside, and then we can talk about putting in a higher low, which is probably going to be somewhere around this yellow 20-minute exponential moving average. And of course, this has been such an important thing, and I hope that this has really come through over the past year or so since we've been talking about it. But the yellow 21 on the monthly is something that I use from a long-term perspective to judge if an equity is bullish or bearish, and over a long period of time. And with this guy now getting a positive slope, that does really set in more longer term buy, I suppose you could say. Now remember, just because it's that way, does that mean that Bitcoin can't have these major massive moves, aggressive moves to the downside, violent moves to the downside to the tune of 30 to 40%? Yeah, absolutely it can, and in fact I'm sure it will. It fucking will. But those now, given my bias, for my bias basically for the last 6 months, I'd say it switched around about 5 months ago, is going to be to buy those dips. Again, I fucking hate that acronym BTFD. It's so silly. It's so moronic in some ways, and it's kind of like a meme, but it certainly is a meme, but it's in a bull market. It certainly is not the worst strategy. In fact, DCA is one of those things that is so fucking misunderstood. DCA, dollar cost averaging. People think that you should dollar cost average in a bear market, like average down. Fuck no. You never know how low things are going to go. Just like you never know how high things are going to go. I'm sure that if you were around during 2017, you already know that. And if you were around 2018, everyone was talking about DCA right here at 16,000, DCA right here again at 12,000, DCA right here at 10,000, DCA at 8,000, DCA at 7,000, DCA. Oh fuck, I'm out of money. Oh shit, now I can't DCA for the actual times that matters. So it's always better to be DCAing into an upwards market if that is going to be your long-term strategy. And I would imagine that's more applicable to the true believers, the hodlers, the people who don't want to trade. But if you are a trader right now, this is the time to be a little bit more active, I think. Just because we are on lower time frames, probably come into a little bit of a starter step in this like next couple of weeks probably. Anyways, with that said, 3-day right over here is going to be the big indication of when I'm looking for that next major pullback. But for right now, 3-day oscillators are still gaining momentum to the upside, and we will get another tick on this later tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time, along with the weekly. So it's going to be a pretty big closure, and 3-day stones still way up there. Yes. Typically speaking, doesn't like to stay up here for too long, historically speaking. 3-day RSI is working on some pretty nasty divergence as well, but until we actually confirm a local high, there's no real divergence to be played out. And of course, it's a 3-day jewel that I'm going to be using to judge the next major top for Bitcoin before the next 30 to 40% drop down. I want to see this light blue oscillator get into this critical area right here, outlined by the dotted red trend lines, which in the past, if we get the light blue oscillator in that region with red flashing in the background and then get a negative slope on that light blue oscillator, that's when major tops have been called. In fact, again, some even to the tune of like 60%, like this guy right over here. But I think that's a little bit more of a one-off, not a one-off, but it's coming off of a parabolic run. It's probably going to be some more like these guys, which are around 30 to 40%. This one about 35%. This one right over here about 35% again. This one right over here about 40%. This one right over here about 32%. You get the idea, and I don't want to go through all these, but it's basically between about 30 to 40%. So, if and when I do get that signal, which would first imply a lot more upside, actually, it's going to take a while to get in this region. That's going to be the next time that I look for a massive pullback. But from a moving average perspective, we have the golden cross on the 3-day, and that has in Bitcoin's history, had some pretty nice implications between the green and the purple. That's a 50 and the 200. That did accurately call the turnaround and bullish momentum over here at about $350 price per Bitcoin in 2015 for the next 3 years to the upside. And not only that, but also this yellow 21 exponential moving average and the white 200 simple, both of importance. You do see them cross the downside right over here, and that not immediately, but within the same week, shuffled, basically cut Bitcoin in half. And the last bullish cross that they had was again right on over here, around a little bit after that golden cross. But again, these things set the tone for the more long-term bias. And again, doesn't mean that Bitcoin can have these massive violent moves down, but those violent massive moves down are likely going to be buys. So that's kind of what I'm getting at right now. Also, the white 200 simple is just a good indication of it in and of itself. I mean, when Bitcoin lost it over here, bad. When Bitcoin regained it over here, good. Same thing right over here, essentially. The yellow 21 given a little bit more of an actionable area. But you do see that Bitcoin's based off of the 200 simple multiple times, actually, even on the 3 days. So quite a big pivot on the market, and I do believe that this is probably going to be our guide going forwards. In fact, I'm going to do a little bit more long-term shit right here. A little bit more speculative, but let's do some mental masturbation. This dotted trend line that the red arrows are pointing towards, this is what I like to refer to as the genesis trend line of Bitcoin, going all the way back to the beginning of Bitstamp. And you do see that when Bitcoin was below it, it was essentially a great area to be a seller on, and when Bitcoin was above it, it was in parabolic phases, and it was a great area to be a buyer on. So it's a great indication of the phase of the market, right? It's a great indication of the phase of the market. When we're above it, it's telling you we're massively bullish. When we're below it, we're a little bit more in an accumulation phase. And so looking at this right here, you do see in 2012, 2013, it was basically a great area to be a seller on. After it broke out above, well, parabolic comes all the way down, bases on it in 2015, doesn't even break it, and goes parabolic again. Then in 2018, we actually break below it right on over here, which was also confluent with breaking the 200 exponential on the weekly, both of equal importance to me. I mean, the 200 exponential a little bit more documentable, and that was a great accumulation phase, as you can see right over here. This area right over here, in hindsight, extremely good. And one of the reasons why I was a buyer at about 39.30 and again at 51.50, actually a little bit more based off the monthly moving averages. But keep in mind that this dotted trend line, where did we, when Bitcoin broke out above here, above the white 200 simple, where did Bitcoin base on it? It based on the dotted trend line, right? So it is likely going to be a governor for our lows going forwards, like you saw in 2014, 2015, actually. So we can actually, plot this out and extrapolate this for the years to come as potential lows, right? So end of this year, at beginning of 2020, we could say that perhaps the low would be around $12,500. If we extrapolate this a little bit more to the end of 2021, the beginning of 2021, end of 2020, then we could say that a potential low would actually be significantly higher, almost $32,000 price per Bitcoin. If we do this another year towards 2022 or beginning of 2022, potential low would be literally all the way up here towards like 80,000. But remember, Bitcoin can break below it. It's just an actionable area that tells you about the phase, the market cycle that we're in. So as long as we're above it, that's a basing area, and that is, potentially a heroic buy area, as you saw over here in 2014, 2015. But if we break below it, then it's time to really consider long-term positions, or closing long-term positions. So I did want to mention that just because it has been so powerful in the past, and does give us something to go off of, going forwards here into the future. We can actually extrapolate this even more so over here on the BLX index, which I don't know. Do I want to get into this right now? Just looking at the matrix, and I plotted these dotted trend lines actually as support trend lines for each and every one in Bitcoin's history on the parabolic market cycles. For this first one anchored in 2010, 2011, gets broken in 2012, and that becomes our parabolic highs in 2013 and 2014. And so I just want to show something that's kind of going on new here. Then we create another support trend line for the next parabolic market cycle anchored in 2011 and 2013, and that gets broken in 2015 right over here, and that becomes the parabolic highs of our 2017, 2018 market cycle right over here. Then we create another support trend line for that next parabolic market cycle, which, by the way, was the same trend line that we just looked at on Bitstamp, anchored in the same areas, and we broke that obviously in 2018, right? But we're seeing actually something new going on right now, something that we've never seen before, because we broke back above that trend line. We actually broke back above that trend line, whereas before, that same trend line holding up those past parabolic market cycles was, became highs of the next market cycle. So is Bitcoin entering a new, God, I can't believe I almost used that word. I almost said new paradigm. But are we doing something unprecedented? Absolutely, yes. What does it mean? I don't fucking know. I don't know, man. It's too early to tell. We don't know, but we are doing something new. And so I would say that, longer term, I do like what I'm seeing here. And I'm going to be, like I said, holding these positions probably for a long time. So with that said, let's go back, and I think I've spoken enough about that. Let's go back on over here, maybe go back to Mexico. I feel like I'm missing something right now. Yes, I do want to talk about this. And shout out to fucking Parabolic for this one. Oh my God, Parabolic, I love you, man. I fucking love you for setting this up. This is this is a chart of expected moves here. Okay, expected moves using basically standard deviations, three rings of standard deviations, and you can see on the weekly it actually gets things phenomenally well, especially with the top sides especially on how do I say this? Especially on the side of the same macro trend, which is now to the upside, the tops have been called incredibly well. So this is a great indication, in my opinion, of when to think of letting go of positions in this market if you do want to be a little bit more of an active trader. And we do see that the top ring, which is essentially like like a 97 percentile or like a 99. I don't even know. That's embarrassing. Bolly's gonna call me out for that. But it's extremely it's a very far outlier is what I'm trying to get out on over here. But it does get hit every now and again. It's typically a great sell. And where is that top area coming in around on this expected move? 12,000 for this next week. Keep in mind, we will be getting another tick on this later tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, so we will have to watch this one and govern this one going forwards here, but I'd imagine that it probably comes up somewhere around this 12,500-ish region. So it does give us something to go off of, and that is why I sold those strikes on the calls that I did for, just a little bit of premium, and they're just quite, to put it quite bluntly, they're pretty fucking easy to cover right now. So yes, would suggest that potential high next week of like 13,000. It doesn't say that we're going to go there. It just says that if we get a major massive move to the upside, I would expect it to likely top out around that 13,000-ish region. And I'm even guessing right now of where the next tick's going to come in, but I'd say probably around 13 or a little bit under 13,000 perhaps. So yeah, that's my point. Also, this bottom one over here, obviously great buys as well on the weekly for more long-term positions, in fact. And that's going to be coming in somewhere next week, I'd imagine, somewhere right around here at about mid 10,000s, which is also going to be confluent with the top of the Trollinger bands if we were to put that on. Anyways, I really wanted to show this just because it does add validity to what we're seeing, across the board, and I really think this is quite unique to be looking at right now. In fact, let's look at this on a monthly and see what this pops up with. Oh, damn it, we need to put this on Bitstamp. You do see that the monthly is actually coming in significantly higher on the top ring, which is represented by the purple. That's all the way at 14,500. But even from the monthly perspective, we almost very rarely hit the top area of it, but we do seem to hit the first and the second ring. In fact, we did hit the first ring essentially on the last run up. But these areas are, more accurately speaking, around about 11,800, which would, kind of line up with the top of our range for now. About 13,000, a little under 13,000, and then the next one coming in about 14,250-ish area. So from a monthly perspective, that is what I'd be looking at, and we obviously have this moving average right here, which are going to act as a little bit of a governor as well. But of course, that's confluent with our double top at around 12,000, around 12,000 in February of last year, 11,500, depending upon how you want to say it. So if Bitcoin can get above there, we're going to likely enter into another massive move, most likely. Jesus, man, I'm probably sounding like the biggest fucking perma bull of all time, and it's just one of those things, man. Trading with the trend makes your life a lot easier, especially if you're a trader. I mean, I probably sounded like a perma bear during all of 2018. Now I sound like a goddamn perma bull. Well, it's better to be a dumb bull in an upwards market than a smart bear in an upwards market, and vice versa for a downwards market. I mean, it's a dumb bull is going to make a lot more money than a smart bear in an upwards market, and their life's just going to be infinitely easier as well. But yeah, I really want to show this. This is a phenomenal indicator. And again, massive thank you to Bollyport for that. That is, oh man, I'm so glad they made that great for options trading as well. Anyways, and by the way, Bolly, get ready for all the requests for that now. Anyways, with regards to the longs and shorts that we're looking at right now, we do see shorts are really starting to pile on. We got about 27,500 open shorts. 2,500 of you guys are open naked, and that gives us about 25.25 open naked, right? Sorry, we had 2,500 hedged, so we have 25.25 open naked versus 24,000 open long. So we do have now an imbalance once again in favor of the shorts, which does actually put on more pressure to the upside. These people have already sold, and we can actually go into the charts right now and look at these short positions, right? And actually on it's a little bit more when we look at it in chart format, which is actually more accurate. And all of these shorts have basically just shot up to the moon since the 11th of June, but even more aggressively since the 19th of June. So a lot of these guys are actually really trapped pretty nastily right over here. I'm guessing that this was all of the people saying this is bearish divergence in volume. The volume is so low. You can't be rising on low volume. Do you know what low volume means? It means we have to go down. Dogs didn't like that. But my point is that hey, volume is context dependent, and it needs to be considered within the overall formation of what we're looking at. And this was just a consolidation right here. This was fucking bullish. And for all the people saying that, oh, we're rising on low volume, so how can Bitcoin be rising on low volume? It's like, well, it's consolidating, and it's a bullish consolidation, so it's about to rise a shit ton more, actually. Unbeknownst to them. So again, the volume fuckboys just as bad as the divergence fuckboys, for reading just one page of Investopedia, not understanding how these things work. Of course, it's I'm being a little bit of a dick myself, and I don't want to represent myself that way. And I'm sure that these people are hurting enough already, but my point is that these guys are trapped. They're trapped below major pivots on the market as well. So good fucking luck with that. And in looking at this area right over here, we have going back to the shorts chart, we have about 2,500 coins short being added above 9,000, right? So that means that's a lot of people to fucking liquidate, and that's rocket fuels for some more upside. So I do think that is quite possible that Bitcoin does get another leg here over time. Talking about a little bit more medium to long term price action. Like I said, lower time frames do want to consolidate for a little bit, but higher time frames still actually have some juice. And this is juice right here. So we're getting into the squeeze of this rally. So typically goes actual buying, then breakout, and then shorts getting squeezed now then they're gonna have to cover, then the FOMO, and then the FOMO, which I don't even know if I don't think that we're at FOMO just yet. Although if I do look at the crypto fear and greed index, we could very easily be at FOMO. We're about at an 84 on the extreme greed read, which is the highest that we've been in the past year. I do think that we top out somewhere between about I might even raise this up, I think somewhere between 90 and 95, but keep in mind, just because we are within this region does not immediately call top in and of itself. Just like when Bitcoin was in a bearish market, we got comfortable in the extreme fearful zone down around here for like months at a time. In some points, we can spend some time in the more critical extreme greed ranges as well. In fact, bull markets typically are more forgiving with that than bear markets. Bear markets, once it gets extremely fearful, usually see move in the opposite direction. Bull markets, same sort of thing, but you can spend more time, is what I found in my experience. So again, I do think that that's worth mentioning, but it's another more long-term warning sign. I would say, we've been kind of getting comfortable in this area for the last week. I'd say you really probably not going to spend more than like a month within this area, a month or two within this area, without having a large counter trend move. So again, from a medium-term perspective as well, I do think that we get that next major shakeout move. I don't know, probably sometime in the next couple months. But yeah, anyways, back onto the charts, and what do we have here? Okay, so I do think I also, before we get into the alts, I do want to look at the Bitcoin network momentum, as this is kind of like the last of the fundamentals that I'm looking at to judge Bitcoin on, getting to the next phase of the market. In fact, we do see that in the past prior attempts that this bull market phase right over here is actually, I think it's greatly misinterpreted by actually the makers of this, which sounds fucking probably super gaudy and super arrogant on my own part, but let me just explain. So this is the network momentum, essentially represented by the brown oscillator. This is Bitcoin price action right over here. If you match these up, if you actually look at these, you do see that in 2011, 2012, Bitcoin was gaining momentum, making higher lows, but it was kind of topping out around this region right over here, right? That created a resistance trend line, and when we broke above it right over here, that's when your real bull market began. I mean, this pretty much extremely accurately called the bullish momentum for the next couple of years, going all the way up on over here. You'll notice that bullish momentum subsided almost directly right after we broke back down below this horizontal trend line right here. And for a while we were gaining momentum to the downside. And then in 2015 we were gaining momentum to the upside once again. But look at where the low was called. The low was called when this oscillator got back above this signal right here. And after that, glory times, not perfectly timed, but glory times, for the next 3 years, creating this another support trend line for this next one, kind of anchored, back and over here, and until Bitcoin breaks back below this marker, that was just straight up essentially. And if you'll notice right now, even with all of that Bitcoin's done, it actually has not even broken back above this past prior trend line, which I do believe kind of signifies the beginning of your like truly strong phase to the upside. So I do think that this from a longer term perspective really is quite compelling. It would suggest that we, man, I can't say those words, but it would suggest that we really can do some special things to the upside if and when we do get this oscillator back above this region right over here. It is lagging in nature. It certainly is lagging, but you can see that we're still pretty fucking far away. We're still really fucking far away. It's going to take a while for this thing to get back into this region right over here. Anyways, that's kind of like the last of the fundamental indicators that I'm really keeping an eye on. Let's go check out the other top shitcoins of this market. What's Mr. Butyrol, or what's Mrs. Litecoin doing? 141 it looks like tick last night, and I do think that we're seeing a break to the upside here. Lower time frames have confirmed, I believe, above our area. No, they have not. Lower time frames are still getting held by this area right over here, but this is creating a nice ascending triangle, and this ascending triangle does have a measure move towards about 150 and a quarter. So if we can get a 4-hour deal to close above about 140, 143, let's call it 140, 142, 143, then yeah, I'd be looking for this to get hit. In fact, it's going to be a little bit more like this. So actually a little bit higher than that. Maybe 153 would be the measure move right on over here. But overall constructive, and I would be rolling with this as a bullish reaccumulation phase, as long as we hold up above this rising trend line right here as an ascending triangle, which is currently coming in around 135. Is looking a little bit toppy, to be fair, but looking at 4-hour historical volatility percentile, this thing can explode at any given moment in time. That is extremely low right there, and that has borne some. I mean, we haven't even seen it that low in a long time. Last time that we saw this low was over here before this massive move up. I mean, this was a move from $60 to like $90. Right there is what I'm talking about. I mean, yeah, we did have a whole period where it was kind of, very, very low, but it did end up resulting in a move like that. So Litecoin might be in for some special things as well, but still kind of in a waiting phase, still very obviously consolidating. So give it a little bit of time, but those actionable areas I do think have some pretty powerful consequences. Looking at looking at daily right over here, we do see taking everything off. Next, 153 would be the next kind of medium-term target, but longer term, it looks like 175 is the next major area for Mrs. Litecoin. What about Mr. Butyrol over here? 313. So Mr. Butyrol actually hitting our first target right around. I said 320 yesterday. We hit 319 and 92 cents. Hey, not bad. Measure move being hit pretty much to the T. So probably do have a little bit of a lower time frame pullback here. As you can see, lower time frames did have a little bit of a stutter step here, but it is actually looking constructive within this region. I do think that Mr. Butyrol overall over the medium term time frames has more to go. Looking at the weekly, this is pretty damn strong, and obviously our next kind of range of resistance is between about 375 and about $400. So Mr. Butyrol joining the party as well. Looking good there. In fact, lower time frames, like I said, they did have a pullback after this measure move was hit, but they look like they want to go again. 4-hour stocks coming down. Yeah, don't like to trade against those too often, but and same thing with daily too. Getting a little bit toppy there, but daily RSI, trend still remaining strong. So a little bit of consolidation, perhaps on the lower time frames, similar to Bitcoin, and still more room to go, actually. Let's see what else we got. Let's go check out Link. How's Link doing versus Satoshi's? Okay, yes, this is what I wanted to get on. So I think that we are entering a little bit of a new phase. I think that some alts are actually putting in bottoms right now, and we'll see that when we get to Cardano. And I do think that Link bounces back up to about 18,700. Even with the Bitcoin dominance chart still looking bullish, I do think that we're probably going to see these alts, get some nice moves once Bitcoin, every time that Bitcoin consolidates, which Bitcoin is doing right now in the lower time frames. So yeah, Link, I'd be looking for a move back up to like 18,000, maybe 19,000 region, somewhere right around here. I do think, yesterday I was saying that we probably come back down and test the 50 exponential. We didn't quite get there. In fact, nowhere near. Well, we got down to 15,500. Yeah, this one's just stronger is what it really comes down to. But let's go look at Cardano here. Cardano putting in a very nice, what do you want to call this, hammer dildo? Is this hammer or doji? Whatever you want to call it, I don't care. Potential sign of reversal, and we do have continuation of the upside. So if you want to judge, a local high and local low, it's just the opposite, right? This is a local low right here. We have a nice reversal-ish type dildo in the formation of doji, if you want to call it that, or hammer if you want to call it that. Don't care, on heavy volume, and then we have follow through by taking out the top side of it. So I do think that this one actually probably pops back up to like 960, maybe even 1,000 satoshis. And do we put in a low here? Actually, I think it's a possibility. Looking at the weekly, it would not look as good, but the daily does have a little bit to go, and we do see that daily oscillators are going to be pointing back up. In fact, a fresh cross the upside on daily Stokes. Weekly going to be doing the same thing as well. So I do think that Cardano is going to try some upside here, and might actually be at a legitimate bottom right now, alongside a lot of alts actually. BNB, what's BNB doing? Did BNB hit my $40 target? Oh man, close as fuck. 39.5 bucks, 39.59 if you want to get super exact. I do think that this one probably, well, we already got the move back down to $37 here. Does this one give another try to the upside? I think it's gonna fall whatever Bitcoin does, but daily's still okay. Daily RSI is fine. Daily RSI is completely fine. The only way that I look for a reversal on this one is if we tick below 37 bucks and 10 cents. Weekly looks like continuation. I think this one has more to roll. So first target of I don't know. This is like third target now at 40 bucks has been hit. But I do think that we consolidate here for a little bit on the lower time frames, and probably follow Bitcoin for another try to the upside. Like I said though, anywhere below 37 bucks and 10 cents, I would look for a more healthy retracement back down to about $35. But for right now, resilient in this region, which is a good sign. Zcash, what's Zcash doing? Hitting our 115 target. Or sorry, no. We hit our target. We hit our target earlier this week at 110. This one, my next target is around 130, if I recall correctly. Yeah, 135, and I do think that this one is going to be reaching that area. Shorter term, 120 would be my target. You see a nice little flag out right over here in continuation. This is good. Zcash is actually looking pretty damn good. We do have a golden cross zone over here, and we're above all major moving averages, maintaining above all major moving averages. More importantly, bullish on this one. Bullish on most things in this market. And again, next move probably towards like 130 to 135 region. Bcash, what's Bcash? Finally joining the party, Mr. Bcash, and actually hitting our target of around 5. What was it, about 5? I think I said like somewhere around the 377. Yeah, about 530. Not quite there actually. 517 and 75 cents. So not quite there just yet, but I do think that it hits it, and I do think that it gets above it as well. Probably up to like 600 bucks would be second target. Tron Cash, Tron doing it finally, baby, fucking finally. Tron hitting all of our levels, and I do think that this one does have some more to go. A little bit of a pullback here, maybe even all the way back down to 3.5 cent again, or a little bit above there, but I do think that ultimately it does try higher. Daily, plenty of room to roll there. Daily RSI is plenty of room and very constructive over a long period of time. Weekly, same thing. I think that it has more to go. Still 4 cents, I would say, more medium-term target, and above there, sink and rip once again. Neo hitting our target all the way to $20, like that. I think that we probably back off here a little bit. Maybe come back down around $16-ish region, and consolidate once again, and then we'll kind of check. Well, do I stick with that? $16 this region? Yeah, maybe. I don't have a strong opinion on this one. Gonna follow the rest of the market just like most of the alts. EOS, what's EOS doing? Not quite at my next target just yet. I said $8 to $8.25, somewhere right around here. But it's on its way. It's looking good here. It wants to go. Like most things in this market, they're going to follow Bitcoin, right? Ripple Me Nipples hitting, very, very close to my next target at 52 cents, 53 cents. This one got up to almost 51 cents last night, and I do think that this one ultimately does hit their moving averages. All major moving averages, we're above all major moving averages. We are getting divergence between the lower periods, and we have the golden cross right over here. I like that. We're about to get to see the 50 cross C377, and we also resolved this, what do you want to call it, ascending triangle, symmetrical triangle, whatever the fuck you call it, being resolved to the upside. I do think that this has a measure move towards that 53 cent region. I do think that we have some more to go here, and overall this is gonna start to turn into a massive bottoming formation. It's sloppy as fuck, but it does work. Monero, what's Monero doing? Hit our 115 target, and I'd say Probably consolidating on lower time frames right now. Let's check it out. Yep, actually right around that 115ish region, and now rallying off of it. That's good. Next target's going to be about 127. About 127 looks like. Stellar, 13 cents. Ooh, and finally getting up above it as well. In fact, resolving this bull flag to the upside. So it did hit our 13-cent target. I do think that our next target's going to be about 15 cents and a little bit more longer term around 17 and a half, 18 cents. It looks like the lows of 2018 essentially. So I do like the confluences there. If you can break above about 18 cents, this thing will have a fucking massive run, probably towards like 25 to 30 cents region. Litecoin, we already looked at Litecoin, and I think that's it. Hey, nice. All right. So going back to Bitcoin, and let's just wrap this bitch up. Lower time frames consolidating within this range right here. The range that is between about 10,550 and 11,150. If we were to break it to the downside, I do think that we come back down to about 10,000. I'm not leaning towards that happening. I do think that this one actually tries back up towards here, towards 11,150. But keep in mind, it's not the lower time frames that I'm really rolling off right now. The lower time frames are not what I'm focused on. It's the higher time frames, the weekly, and the weekly has a chance once again to close above the top 200 bands, which would imply continuation coming into next week. So if we do close above the top 200 band, which is again 10,200, then I'd probably be looking for a pullback. Maybe sometime next week, first and foremost to, maybe like 10,500, 10,600, whatever it ends up being. We don't know just yet until we get the next tick to test the top of the 200 bands, and then continuation off there as Bitcoin tries for new highs. So, and that's going to, and remember, the next major resistance is right around about 11,400, we'll call it 11,500. So that's essentially what I'm looking for coming into this next week. And going to be a little bit of a waiting game today. I don't think that we see too much happen today, but probably just consolidation on the lower time frames. But after we get this next weekly close, which again is later tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time, I would be looking for some plays once again, some trending plays once again. So with that said, I do want to wish you well on this lovely sunny Sunday morning over here from not Helsinki, but the forests of Finland. I can't even say this word because it's literally got these dots on it that I don't know what the fuck they mean. and I hope that you're doing well. Pray to Goat Jesus. Pray to whatever Lord and Savior that you want, but definitely pray to Goat Jesus because He is the one true. Anyways, I'll leave you off with that, and I'll be back on tomorrow with some more video and live stream analysis. Looking forward to that. Take care, and see you soon.